Hey. Hello, everybody out there. I know you can hear me, and I hope you can because I don't have myself on mute. Just tell me if it's loud enough, and we'll go from there. So I'm back, right? Did you guys miss me last week? Uh, we're just gonna wait for some folks to come in and stuff like that. I'll tell you where I was and what I was doing, and then we'll get into why we're here today. I think some of you already know if you just look at the title. But it's so let me first start by saying, welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. And hey, listen, hit the like button on the way in. Just make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Hit the super chat or cash app for the channel and share the video with some folks who think might need to hear the message. That we shouldn't be acting like DEI is the face of the Black community. But that's another story. We'll get to that. So welcome aboard. Anybody out there, go ahead and hit the chat so I know who's here. And we'll just start talking. I know 7 o'clock on the Eastern time is kind of early for you guys in Midwest and out in California or wherever you may be. But hey, listen, the time is the time. I'm going to probably drop the link early. When I say early for me, maybe somewhere after the first short video or something like that. And, we'll have some conversation from there. I know DEI is a hot topic that people are talking about. And for Black folks, it's like, where do we fit in this post-DEI era? This is my 3rd episode of this. And we're going to touch on some things. Of course, I have some videos with some folks who can explain can help reinforce where I'm coming from in more articulate words and stuff of that nature. So, and then just me pissing in the wind talking about this. There are other people out there who think like me about this whole situation. And I think, I think we need to come to some realization as Black folks where we fit in. Some people are afraid that if DEI goes away, they'll never be able to get a job, or it's going to be twice as hard and all this other kind of stuff. But maybe there might be some truth for that. Maybe there's not. Here's one thing I do know. Every time I talk to a Black person and I ask them straight up, do you think you got your job based on DEI? Are you a DEI hire? Are you only in your job because somebody gave it to you because you're some lowly Black victim that they had to help out? And I have yet to have somebody say, yeah, if it wasn't for DEI, I'll be on a street corner, begging for food. I have yet to hear somebody tell me that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious as to when you guys think about it on your, in your quiet space, do you think all your achievements were based on the fact that Zaddy gave you something? Or did you get what you got based on some merit? That's something for you to think about. And I have some theories, and I'm definitely talk about some of those here before we get going. I'm still waiting for some people to come on and get into the chat. Some of the usuals. I know people maybe have some post Super Bowl blues, especially if you was a Kansas City fan. They got their ass beat yesterday. I'm very disappointed. I wanted to see a good game. I didn't mind Philly winning and spreading some of the wealth around, but I wanted to see history. And more important, I wanted to see a good game. We got neither, not really. So Kansas City act like they were like amateurs out there. So they got beat down pretty bad. I don't know. That didn't bode well for the Super Bowl. And Kendrick Lamar didn't do anything to help his cause either during the halftime show. Some people liked it, but me, I'm not a big rap guy, so I didn't recognize just 1 or 2 of his songs. All the Stars Are Closer. That's only because it was a Black Panther theme. And of course, who doesn't know Just Like Us? But he had other hits that probably were more commercial than those two. So anyway, that's just another story as well. So here we are Monday again. You know, black folks in the post DEI America, and DEI is not synonymous for Black American excellence. It's not. And I don't know, now I do know, but I disapprove and I don't like the fact that Black people are the champion and the face of this DEI rhetoric, championing this stuff when white women are the number one beneficiary. So let's kind of talk about a couple of things. One, just last weekend when I was off, and excuse me, I still have a little chest cold left. Me and the wife, we went down to like a mini family reunion down in Maryland. One of my cousins opened up her house, and all of us converged from all points in the United States to hang out with her and her sons and her husband for the weekend. And we used to have a lot of family reunions when my grandmother and grandfather was alive on my father's side. We're pretty close, okay? And so we're there for the weekend. Me and the wife had a good time. We had a hotel room like we always do, no matter where we go. So Saturday, we had a whole big bunch of family in there. Sunday, we had Sunday brunch again with the family. People started going home, and I just stayed with my cousin and my wife. And we were talking for hours. And then on Monday, we had some friends in the area, and we went out to have dinner with them in the evening. And then we drove back, took our time Tuesday morning. But one of the things that dawned on me was that our family is really close based on the fact that we have a lot of women in our family. My grandmother and grandfather, my paternal grandmother and grandfather had 10 children, 4 boys, 1 died when he was 10, and 6 daughters, okay? And when we moved from Harlem to the Bronx, everybody in their family always came over to the house in the Bronx. It was like the main hub. Every event, every cookout, everything, we always had family together. And a whole bunch of us lived in that house, 2-family house with a full basement and everything else like that. It was like paradise from living in Harlem. So all of us as cousins, brothers and sisters, we were all close. So that was back in the 60s and into the 70s. We didn't give that house up until 2014 or something like that. So generations passed through that house. But one of the things that really dawned on me, it was the women who were the glue to why our family was so close. You know, the daughters cleaving to their mother for comfort and for that wisdom. You know, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother was a matriarch, just like most women were back then. But my grandfather was unquestionably the leader of the household. He didn't say much, but he was the only one who could quiet my grandmother down. And yes, he got the big piece of chicken at dinner time and the plate first, but he would wait to eat when everybody was served. So we had one of those traditional kind of things, which was cool. But again, if they had mostly sons in that family, I don't think we would be as close as we are today, because sons are not the glue, right? Sons would be off in the 4 corners of the world, making their way separately, maybe get back once in a while, but we'll probably be closer to our wives' house than the women who made families and stayed around their mother. Okay, so, and I think that that's true. I mean, that's just part of my theory. So one of my biggest observations is that the women, you know, we had drama, we had all kinds of stuff, but the closeness of the family was based on the glue that women gave. You know, so if it was not for the women, I think we wouldn't be as close as we are. So now here's where my theory comes in on why we're stuck on a Democratic plantation. And it's not just because of women, but I think they're the glue. Let me tell you a little bit of my dumb theory. I think that the theory is that there's comfort, you know, being around mama in the general family sense. And I think it manifests itself with women in other ways. I think it's a good thing when you talk about family, but I think it's the linchpin that could be manipulated by nefarious forces. And when I say manipulated, okay, this is where it comes in. Why are we as Black Americans the face of DEI? Why? Where did that shit come from? Why are we? Okay, so we're not the primary benefactors. There's a lot of people who know that. Even Black people know that. We haven't been benefactors for DEI in quite some time. So why are we the face of it? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, we got a bunch of race hustlers who make a living on that, like your Al Sharptons, your Roland Martins, and a whole cadre of Black women who find comfort in being coddled and affirmed by Zaddy, right? You know, there's some comfort there knowing that you got the safety net that's championed by Zaddy, whether it's good for you or not. So they eat up the bread, they eat the breadcrumbs that fall off the table, and they're able to make a living promoting and keeping Black mentality crippled by victimization. And I'm gonna show you a living example of where that victimization comes from and how it manifests itself. I got a video on that. And when you see the video, you're going to understand exactly where I'm coming from. Now, this is just a theory, right? It's the mama theory. It's the coddleness and the comfort that Zaddy has your back. And I believe that Black women are susceptible to that. We're a victim. We need you to save us. You know, men do this as well, but men don't provide the glue and the effectiveness as women do in this kind of arena, right? Because the women who have sycophantic husbands drag their husbands on too. There's got to be a reason why 92% of Black women vote for liberal causes, right? Whether they're good for us as a people or not. There's got to be a reason. And there's got to be a reason why 80% of the men, who step and fetch it for these women, follow them blindlessly in order to keep peace in the house. Now, how could I say that? Well, it just seems that way, right? I mean, I was a Democrat for most of my adult life, not because my family did it. My parents just said, vote Democrat down the line. My wife isn't political, so I didn't have to worry about with her, but I just voted. So I had this revelation just in the last few years that what the hell am I doing? I'm not for transgenderism. I'm not for socialism. I'm not for unfettered immigration. I'm not for letting people off when they steal $1,000 worth of shit out of a store. I'm not for that shit. So there was nothing left in the Democratic Party as it is today that was worthwhile to me. Unlimited wars, all that kind of shit. So, but how come we're still stuck? Well, I gave you my theory. You tell me what your theory is. Because there's got to be a reason why we do the things that we do. Now, I'm trying to figure out where's everybody at. But again, I see some numbers. Hit the chat, hit the like button, and let me know that you're out there. And if you want to participate, I'll be dropping the link for you to do so. You know what I'm saying? So we got 13 people watching now. If you got something to say, put something in the chat. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, feel free to say whatever you need to say. So just kind of looking at, I have like a little icebreaker that I'd like to show folks, but I'm gonna hold off until I see one person come up and say, all right, at least I'm in the chat. So I know so somebody's watching this, because I don't want to waste it just by showing it back to myself. Anyway, but I might just keep this show going. Right. So where's everybody at? That's what I want to know. What else is going on? So my theory is my theory. I would like, maybe when somebody comes up, we could talk about whether you agree with it or not, because I think we have a chance to be on the right side of history. And so far, too many Black people are still standing on the other side. And I think that's a mistake for us to be on the other side as the world is moving on. We're not victims. We're not victims. We're not victims. We can move. We've proven that we can wrestle with the biggest dogs and still live. Hey, how you doing, Stanley? Welcome aboard. Anyway, so welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So I'm gonna show this clip anyway because I want to just keep this moving because it's an icebreaker. I can show it more than once, and whoever's looking at this, I think you're gonna be stunned by what you see because one of the things that that people have a problem with is the way we talk about DEI and diversity and the training that people had to go through. And this training class that, first of all, I'm not going to tell you too much of it, but I thought the lady was trolling because this shit just couldn't be true. It just couldn't be true. I don't know. I still want to show it because I might show it more than once. I don't know. Stan, if you looking in, you could chime in on what you think this class is. I don't know if you saw this video before. And as people come in, when it gets a little later, that's cool. I might even show it again. But here's what I'm talking about. I want to see if you guys believe that this shit is real or not. All right, because it's short. It's very short.
All white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
I just got to play it one more time.
So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
Okay. All right, listen. If that's not a troll and that's a real class, can't you see why white people are so anti-DEI and diversity training? I can't believe that anybody stayed in that class except for the fact that they were told to be there by their management and that they probably had to complete that class for some kind of bonus or some kind of tick mark in their appraisals so that they took training, because no rational person will sit down and listen to a 400-pound woman telling them that they're demons. You know what I'm saying? And she could be fine too, but at least she'd be aesthetically pleasing. But nobody's going to sit there and listen to this woman with I heard a couple of gasps in there, but this was one of the reasons why diversity in these workplaces are going to die, because a lot of the training is that bad. So if you're sitting down there and you're a white person, I don't see how you come out of that training better off or just plain old pissed off. You know what I'm saying? So again, how did black people become the face of DEI? When I can't really find anybody who will stand up on a street corner and say, the only reason why I've succeeded is because white people gave me a chance. No, not on my merit, not on the times that you spent in class getting your grades. Because you know what? Last I checked, there's no DEI test in engineering school. There's nothing like that, right? Listen, I became an engineer in the late 70s. and I was the only black person there. And I have stories, right? Since we're here and we're just talking to each other, I remember one class. It was separation processes, right? You're separating, gases from liquids, liquids from liquids, and there's a way to set up the equipment and everything else to run these experiments. And we had a test, and the test was graded on a curve. And I think the curve was so low, it was like an A, it was like 40 on the test. You got a 40, you got an A. So that means everybody else was from 40 down, right? And so the teacher was a white Aryan, I mean, a real white Aryan German. I mean, he had a German accent. He was white as a sheet of paper, and he had blue eyes and blonde hair. And I'm the only black in the class, So I'm saying, shoot, man. So I'm sitting there, and he's giving out the test results. And everybody else, he gave their test with the test folded so you couldn't see their score. When he came to me, he had my paper wide open with a big fat F on it, right? Because I failed that first test. And he made sure everybody in the class saw it. And he looked at me like, what are you doing here? Right? What are you doing here? And well, long story short, I actually passed the class, right? I wasn't going to quit based on that shit. Right? I passed the class. And, again, long story short, he actually recommended me for a job at Exxon for the summer. That's how that turned around. Nobody gave me shit, right? He challenged me, and I challenged him back, and he actually gave me a reference for a job at Exxon. So that's how it ended for me. I didn't quit and go into some, goddamn shell. I know I didn't work as hard as I should have on that first exam, so I did something about it. And that's what we all need to do. We need to do something about the shit that we can't always pass. So if we fail, we pick ourselves up. I was in school. That was my chance. I wasn't going to blow it. Even though I messed up a test. Everybody messed up a test once in a while, but he was man enough to say, okay, you know what? I challenged you with a look, and you're still here standing. So he gave me a recommendation. So I don't believe that any of us or most of us who succeed as Black people did it because somebody gave us shit. Remember the saying, I have to work twice as hard to get half as much and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so is that a flex that you had to work twice as hard? Did you get what you wanted? If the answer is yes, who gives a shit that you work twice as hard? If you are where you want to be, right? That journey took you a little bit longer, but you actually did the journey. You didn't quit. You didn't cry. You did whatever the hell you had to succeed. I'm talking about legally, right? And when you're sitting in that seat that you wanted to sit in, who gives a shit that the journey was hard? That you have better character now. You understand the pitfalls. You know what you could do. So when you talk to the next guy, you can tell him what to do and what not to do. That's how I see it. So I don't know why we're the face of DEI. Why? Why are Black people the face of DEI? We're the last on the totem pole to get any benefits from it. Where are the white women protesting DEI? Where are they? Where are the transgenders protesting no DEI? Where are the Latinos? Where are all the other people who benefit from this shit? And why we got big ass head, bobblehead Al Sharpton, doing what he's doing, saying, hey, if we don't have DEI, every Black person is going to fall into the pit and we're going to be finished. That's what Roland Martin said. He said, if we don't have DEI, we're not going to succeed in life. That's a goddamn lie. It's a lie. How could how could this guy actually be an alpha and say some stupid shit like that? The founding fathers of the fraternity didn't think that way. You know what I'm saying? It's, to hear these guys talk, man, it really, really is distressing. Now, it's not all pie in the sky, but that's life. It doesn't have to be pie in the sky. Who gives a shit about that? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to say, we should not champion all kinds of bullshit causes, and DEI is one of them, right? So we got to understand that there's a future coming, and it's coming to us like a freight train. And that future is, we got to be on the right side of it because we're already running behind. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Thanks for popping in. I don't know if you saw that video that I put up there, but I might replay it a little while from now. But we got to understand that history is coming towards us and the future is coming towards us, and we can't afford to be victims or thinking that if they take away DEI, somehow we're going to start failing. What it's going to make us do is pay more attention to the education of our children. It's going to make us pay more attention to the things we need to do to succeed. Maybe we got to watch a little less TV. Maybe we got to read a few more books. Maybe we have to challenge ourselves to work on those networks that we do have for the betterment of all of us. Maybe we got to stop fighting out between ourselves, men and women. Just maybe we need to stop that stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? And maybe half of us or more than half of us need to come off this singularity of that if we're not liberal Democrats, we can't succeed. I don't care if it goes down to 50%. Everybody's not going to be conservative or Republican. That's fair. But we need to make sure that we are not a monolithic on how the country is run, because it ain't working no more. They tried to, with the immigration, they're trying to replace your ass. That's why the floodgates were open. They were trying to get new people in to replace the blacks who used to be important for elections. So they thought if they get all these immigrants in, flood them with money and all this good shit from the old country, that when it comes time to vote, they could be the new voting bloc for the Democrats, and your vote won't matter as much. Oh, it'll help, but it won't be the linchpin like it was before. Again, this election showed that if 100% of the blacks who voted Democrat, they still would have lost. Anyway, so getting back to this thing, and I'm going to drop the link for anybody, hey, how you doing, Howie G? Welcome aboard. Listen, I don't know why we keep voting for this. Every time we do something like the boycott, let me throw this up here for a second. I don't know why people keep calling for a boycott. I realize that in 2025, boycott speeds up the human job loss. Okay, let me tell you this. Hey, Coach Ferg, how you doing, man? Let me just drop this link. Hold on for a second. I'm gonna get back to that. I'm gonna drop the link in here, just so it's down there. All right. So listen, one of the things that when you make a move like a boycott, there's intended and there's unintended consequences, right? So we found out that the unintended consequence is that for places like Target, who actually have a program for blacks to put their shit on their shelves, the goods and services on their shelves, they have to meet some criteria to do that. It's not just a DEI criteria, it's a criteria that everybody else has to meet as well. They may have some DEI programs where a lesser person who is struggling, or they give a person a chance to. Now they're not worrying about doing that anymore. But if you boycott Target, all the black people who work their ass off to get their stuff on the shelves is going to be hurt. So the people who are giving jobs out to people who are actually doing something in the economy by giving jobs and building businesses get hurt because we're boycotting. Now, the other thing is that our Bubblehead Sharpton tells this: we're going to boycott Target, but we're going to take all you N-words and we're going to make you spend your money in Costco, right? Where Costco probably has nobody who's black in their board of directors, and they all go to the same party as those assholes from Target. They belong to the same club. Well, how come we couldn't find a black-owned business to spend their money with? This is where the race hustling comes in, right? So I'm saying it's we got to stop being the face of all this fuckery. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, Anyway, so I have so much more that I want to say, and I'm just like on a ramble. But history is coming at us, and I say history is coming at us because if we're on the wrong side, it's not going to matter what we think. It really isn't. If they're going to just leave us behind, and we're going to still be here struggling, worrying about handouts when I think it's going away. I just heard that they're going to put not term limits, but limits on how long somebody can stay on Section 8. The safety nets are going away. Let me tell you, you're hearing a lot of news stuff that Trump is doing stuff. He's the executive. He's the chief executive. He has more leeway than the news media is going to tell you. They could come up with all kinds of judges to try to stop him. But if any of that stuff goes to the Supreme Court, he has the right to run his executive branch according to the best way he knows how. And if that means he wants to audit all the damn organizations, he should be able to. And the things he can't do, the courts work out. Like, for example, birthright. Let me get back on the DEI. Birthright citizenship. I don't, first of all, I disagree with him trying to get rid of that, only for my own reasons. But you can't get rid of a constitutional amendment right based on an executive order. You just can't do it. That's unconstitutional. It's got to be adjudicated in the courts. So that's why when he wrote that, people start panicking. Well, he's not going to get passed. Well, that's why they blocked that shit in the courts the first time. But auditing the Treasury, which falls under the executive branch, hell yeah, he has the right to audit the Treasury if he wants to. And no judge should be able to tell him he can't do that. That's why that's going to get thrown out. And that judge might get in trouble. That was an overreach. Okay, so so let me go ahead and show you a couple of things I want to go back down on the DEI trail. And so I dropped the link for anybody who wants to come up. Now, I found this stream by this young brother. I've never seen him, but I don't know how young he is, but he has a take. Oh, no, this is not this. This is his thing. He has a take on DEI that I kind of like. And I think it's worth looking at, worth going through and looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we're going to go and we're going to look at this video. So stay tuned with me. All right. No, these are two brothers. Okay. These guys are mavens. And I think they have a good take on DEI and how it impacts Black folks. So it's in two parts. One, they talk about the issue of how DEI is how we have a problem with DEI and where we go from here. They try to even come up with a solution. They talk about how bad it is and also what are the possible solutions. And I got two clips on here. The other video that I have that's like a sister video is actual manifestation of a woman who was successful, rejecting the fact that she's successful because she wants to be a victim rather than champion the fact that she got to where she is because of her own merit. And it's really troubling to hear a woman talk like this. And then there's a brother breaking that down. So that's how it goes. I was a little off. So here it goes. I'm going to show you these two gentlemen. And the clips are like 4 minutes long. I only got two of them. But pay close attention to what they're talking about.
Does all this scare you?
I'm not afraid. In fact, it's kind of like chickens coming home to roost.
The unlimited access Vantage plan, which is the same plan I
know why.
use. Make sure you subscribe using my link at
The interest of fragility, it's kind of like chickens coming home to roost. You guys, that is the DEI mongers, overplayed your hand by a wide margin You invited this backlash with your arrogance, with your contempt for the reasonable objections and sensibilities of your fellow citizens. You played your card. You had this race card, this Trump card in the back of your hand. I'm a victim, slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, structural racism, systemic bias. You played on the gullibility and vulnerability and emotional fragility, white fragility of the white liberal governing elites. You infiltrated the Democratic Party and made this thing into a kind of one-size-fits-all accusation against American society. And it engendered a backlash, not just from white men, from normies, the kind of people who made Donald Trump president of the United States. It engendered a backlash, and now you're reaping what you have sown. You did sometimes flout standards in the interest of complexion, in the interest of composing the ideal demographically diverse class or cadres of employees or elites or whatever. And then on occasion, people who were unfit for the high level to which they had been elevated exposed themselves as such. And that did not go unnoticed. You did all.
Well, okay, on that, I just wanted to stop. This notion that when they implemented some DEI or affirmative action, that they didn't change standards is a lie. It's a lie. They absolutely did. And sometimes we conflate the fact that even if you're qualified, we can't forget whether you were the best qualified for that job. And by saying, well, we don't have enough women or enough black men or enough gay men or enough, transgenders, even if you're just to being minimally qualified is enough. So the guys who are more qualified, it's okay not to give them a job, right? At some point, your job will, your things that you're trying to accomplish will start to deteriorate.
All these things. And now Christopher Rufo, you reap what you sow. Mm-hmm. So no, I'm not afraid, but it does have my attention because okay. I am afraid. I'm afraid that the narrative is going to shift irrevocably and the country is going to move on. I've been warning about this for a long time. It's the 21st century. The Chinese are coming. Technology is inexorable. Globalization, communications is getting small. We work with people all over the planet. The competition is keen. If you're unfit, if you don't have something to offer, if you're not productive, if you don't have a skill, if you haven't mastered anything, you're going to be left behind. I'm fearful that a quarter, a third of the African-American descended from slaves population languishing are going to be left behind.
Okay, let's just stop there, okay? We know that we have a problem in the Black community where we have a very low two-family household count. It's been that way for decades, pretty much. And it's at its all-time low now. We know that there's a high school to prison pipeline. We know that our children are failing in public schools at a higher rate than they should. And probably Black men are somewhere near the bottom. The fact that some Black women are getting college degrees doesn't really talk about how many Black women are not getting anything but babies. So this future that's coming, this is what he's talking about. How are we going to compete if we don't have the basic tools to be competitors with all the people coming, the Asians, not just the whites, the Asians, whether they're from China or whether they're from India, the Africans, right, coming, looking for a better life, or anybody coming here looking for a better life, willing to do what it takes. What is the African American or what is the Black American willing to do to continue to compete in this arena without worrying about handouts? Because we got a significant amount of people who rely on this kind of shit. And it's not going to help us in the future because that stuff is drying up or going away completely.
They're going to no longer be able to command the attention, their issues and their problems and concerns in a concerted way with real heft behind it of their fellow citizens. They're going to be seen as impediments to the Make America Great Again project, and they're going to be locked up. They're going to be shunted. They're going to be dealt with, contained. They're not going to be elevated. They're not going to be developed. They're not going to be the objects of a kind of concerted public effort at amelioration. And maybe that's what should happen. That's kind of the logic of some of the arguments that I've been making for years. That, by the way, doesn't preclude a concern within American politics for people who are struggling. It just announces a turn, a historic turn, away from a special concern about Black people who are struggling.
Glenn, well, first of all, yes, the DEI people overplayed their hand, and I hate to sound petty, but in the historical sense, we're going to look at 2020 and 2021, and we're going to see our intelligentsia swooning over what is truly, and I'm sorry, this is just fact, white fragility, which is literally one of the worst books ever written.
All right, so let me stop it there. All right, so you see that I'm gonna move this forward to the 19-minute mark where they start talking about what a possible solution might be. They don't really get there, but they use the word that says, okay, maybe there's some way out of this. And I'm not so sure that they hit the mark, but I just wanted to advance the conversation just a little bit. So you can see now, this gentleman, you can go look this up, Glenn, Lori, and John, McWater. You can go look it up and look at this whole 1 hour thing because I think it's worthwhile. But anyway, so again, what my man Glenn was talking about is really profound because it's exactly where we are. And just overplaying our hand, and we're still overplaying the hand. But the American people have already put a man in office that they were so frustrated with the way things are going. They put a man in office not because of his character, it's because that he's unapologetic about the things he wants to do, and he wants to straighten things out and get away from all of this bullshit that we're championing. And we've seen it come at us, and guess what? The people on the other side, the people on the plantation, they're doubling down, tripling down. We don't want these people backing off. We want to be able for the country to move on, make America strong again. And if America is strong and we are on the right side of history as Black people, we will benefit from that.
What used to be called the Black underclass. Because, it's at the point where the underclass is now white and Black. It's fentanyl and what's going on in the cities. And so the question is maybe how we address that. But if we're talking about Black uplift, if we're talking about Black gangbangers, et cetera, given what we've seen since the 60s, what would work? Just what has not happened? And there's a certain kind of person who's going to say more programs. That's not an answer, and that's not the answer that you would give. What is it that you're afraid wouldn't happen?
I agree that another program is not the answer. And I'm not sure I have an answer to you about specifically what should public policy be that would address, quote, the Black underclass. You just address, quote, the underclass, and you would include everybody who was in that orbit.
All right, so he says something. There's a book out called Color Blindness. I forgot the name of the author. And he's talking about having a colorblind society and looking at people from a class perspective. Like if we correct what's in the underclass, the things that make the underclass where things could be corrected, we would that lifting that class will lift not only whites, it'll lift blacks and everybody else who falls under that cut line. And that's better than just, and you guys tell me this, that's better than just focusing on blacks as part of the underclass, because if you do that, you alienate everybody else who feels that they can use the same kind of help. And why should they just help black folks when we need to raise everybody in that class if we could? So I think that's what he's kind of talking about, and he'll go some more on that.
Whether they were black or not, the extent to which you might feel an urgency to address the underclass, quote unquote, the underclass is a controversial word, but let's go with it. The extent to which you might feel an urgency to do something about the facts of poverty, concentrated poverty, poor schools, whatever. And I mean, we could go down a policy list. You could talk about doing something about the quality of education in these communities, or, about occupational training and this kind of preparation of people for workforce or whatever. You could talk about that. You could talk about social services. You could talk about the family and what policies do or do not encourage people to marry or whatever. You could talk about what, so there are all these, but you'd be talking about it for everybody, not specifically for blacks. But the urgency to take up that conversation and the amount of effort that you might put into redressing these things might be enhanced by a recognition that there's a racial disproportion in what you do. I mean, you might feel that among the things you're accomplishing when you successfully intervene against poverty, poor education, joblessness, criminal victimization, and so on, among the things you're accomplishing is alleviating the burden or the weight of a legacy of racial unfairness and so on. I know, I see you shaking your head. I'm not sure this flies. I may be in my 70s here trying to hold on to a sensibility and a posture, an intellectual and political and philosophical posture that was well suited to the last quarter of the 20th century, but ill-suited to the second quarter of the 21st century, which is where we are. That may well be the case. And, times passes by and times change. The country is fast moving. There are many more Latino Hispanics than there are blacks. As I say, the world is getting very, very small. The technological revolution that we're living through has implications that we can barely fathom. And, maybe race, as Stanley Crouch once said to me, the late, great Stanley Crouch, race is over, man. Didn't you know that race is over? Maybe race really is over.
And let me stop it there, because yes, for many of us, race is over. We're in a full-fledged class war, right? And people are falling into categories regardless of their race. You know what I'm saying? It really is true. We just saw a cadre during this last election. We just saw a cadre of some of your most accomplished black entertainers and athletes come out for a woman they hardly knew and trying to lecture to middle-class blacks on who we should vote for. And if we don't, this is what you are. You're a misogynist, you're this, you're that. We just saw all of those people do that. We just saw how the people are even in the black community of that ilk come down on people who are working for a living, who the price of eggs does matter. Transportation does matter. Crime matters. All these things matter. But these people up here lecturing to us, your Oprah Winfrey's and all of those, people who have charmed lives, wanting us to stay on the plantation and asking for breadcrumbs off the table of Zaddy. We can no longer afford to do any of that shit, and we need to raise enough. One of the things we have to understand that our lives are more important than just the color of our skin. We are much more than just the color of our skin. Doesn't have to define everything that we are. and everything ain't about us. So, I mean, as long as we keep trapped in that mindset, I don't think we can get forward. And some of the things that the programmers have done between black men and black women are almost irreparable, you know, except for a few people who actually want to do something different, who want to do. So I'm just saying this DEI thing is a big deal because Michelle, can you come on camera at all? Just in the back so I can see who you are before I let you up. Yeah, that's one of the rules here on BMU. I want to let you up, but I don't make the rules. Are you a lady? Okay. All right. If you could go back down if you don't want to be on camera, but just make sure I'll hear you. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What you got to say?
I thank you for this good topic. We do need. I live in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area,
Okay.
so I have a lot of colleagues who work in the government, and I also work with a government contractor. So that's part of the reason why I have to be little discreet because you never know anything popping up.
No problem.
Because Trump is doing his checks.
Is this your first time?
Yes, it is my first time here, but I've seen few of your shows. But you're not as regular. Are you gonna be more consistent?
No. Monday, every Monday at 7. I've been doing this for over a year. Last Monday I was off. So
okay.
if you go back to this channel on Monday at 7:00, they call it the Boomer Show. I have all kinds of stuff. But this is my third installment of the DEI thing, Black Folks Post DEI. So
okay.
Well, go ahead. What you got to say? What do you think?
Okay, all jokes aside, I work in the Washington D.C. area, so I know a lot of colleagues. I have my friends' mother and aunts. A lot of them about to take the buyout because they don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I have a colleague who works at the Navy Yard. They were they said that they may have to go back to work, but the issue with them, because they were working at the Navy Yard, it allowed them working from home partially. It allowed them to take care of some home life balance stuff, but having to go in and out the city could be a challenge. So a lot of people don't understand, even though people are working from home, they're also able to balance some personal stuff. So, they need to give some credence to that. But so that's why I feel that is also a push on like working families. I live in the Washington D.C. area. Majority of the families we have here are Black families. I live PG County, Charles County, some subsets of D.C. now because D.C. is heavily gentrified now.
Okay.
So,
well, go ahead. So what do you think about DEI going away? I work for. Let me tell you, I work for the government. I retired. I was a Department of the Army for 38 years, a civilian engineer. So I've been out since the pandemic. But so I know a bunch of people still in the Army, and I talked about the letter. I actually did a show on my channel about the actual resignation letter. But I just think that I still haven't found a Black person who told me they got their job based on DEI. Right?
Here, the only person.
Go ahead.
DC area, I don't see it here in the DC area. It's like who like one of our good friend of mine, I haven't talked to her in years. One of the reasons why she got the job she got, per my recollection, was that because her aunt was there and was able to push her through.
Yeah, which like
so for me personally,
go ahead.
So me personally, I don't know any DEI hires per se. Now, what I'm thinking when I was talking to a friend of mine briefly, like the DIIs are more like maybe very upper management roles.
Okay.
Because if you really look at the DC government per se, I'm just generally speaking, you don't see us in really those high roles. Very handful of us. But in terms of its workers, yeah, we're there. We're working in the government.
Okay.
We're working.
All right, so listen, so what do you think about, just in general, how do you see Black folks faring? Oh, let me ask you the real question while we're here. Do you have any issue with, and I call them race hustlers, making DEI synonymous with Black American excellence?
I do have a problem with it. I have a problem with it in terms of Black people. We as Black people have a legitimate grievance with America for 400 years. And that's a grievance within itself, and it should apply to no one else. And that should be expanded to no one else. And Trump acknowledged that
Okay.
with the 13th, 14th Amendment with birthright citizenship. Again, because I work in human resources,
Okay.
I'm gradually seeing how people, once they come together in numbers, they push us out. Because I was working with a young man years ago, because I was working with a man with disabilities.
Okay.
He had autism. The person who owned the cleaning company was Black owned, had some health issues. I think a nephew or somebody took over, wasn't running it right. And long story short, had lost the contract. So the person that came with the contract was a Spanish person. Again, because he was in the job because of his special disabilities. That's why they were giving funding for him to be in that program.
Okay.
The Spanish company slowly pushed that young man out. The ladies were complaining they scared them. He doesn't follow directions. So long story short, he was pushed out, and he eventually got a better job.
Okay.
But the issue I have, we do need set asides, number one, for people with special disabilities, so they can at least access job and a right to work and have some self-dignity, because they do need some level of support in their work.
Okay, so you have an issue with him adding accessibility to the DEI list. You don't like that?
Yes, I do.
All right. So I mean, I think that's fair, but I think that's fair to say, because I don't know what those people are going to do either. But I don't know if he's trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But one of the things that he said about the air traffic controllers, that aid also went for somebody being behind the air traffic control screen. I don't know if I agree with that. You know, I mean, you know, so the accessibility also means what kind of job we're talking about. If it's a clerical or logistics job.
Exactly. I worked with one lady who had vision issues, and she wanted to work in the operating room. And we had to slowly explain to her. This was this is years ago, and we had to work with her. I understand maybe you want to work in the hospital, so we had to creatively find things like maybe you could put stuff away, you can count, you know.
So we're on the same page there. So that's where I'm coming from. You know, everything. I don't believe.
So somebody.
Go ahead.
If somebody has a disability, let's accommodate it. Maybe they cannot be an air traffic controller per se. Maybe find a job where maybe they're answering the phone, where they're working in the environment, but not necessarily as an air traffic controller.
No, okay, so we're on the same page. Yeah, I was talking to one of my buddies earlier today, and I brought this up to him. I said, listen, if you have young children, right? I said, if you went to a daycare center and there was nothing but men there, will you feel comfortable leaving your kid with them? And you know what I'm saying? I would not feel comfortable leaving my kids in an all-male daycare center. You know what I'm saying? Because men are not naturally nurtured like women. So I don't think a woman would be comfortable with that shit either. So I don't believe that.
No.
So I don't believe every job is for everybody. And this is where the DEI thing goes wrong. Like, I don't believe that females should be prison guards in male prisons. And I don't think men.
No, I got another story with that.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead. Tell your story.
Yeah. What I was doing again. I worked in human services, so I've dealt in a gamut of areas.
Okay.
And I was working with a young guy who it was big here in the DC area, where this big time gangster impregnated some of the women guards, and then that person, and they had to do an investigation. So they called this person. So I got to see firsthand, not necessarily see, but hear firsthand of some of the accounts. Yeah, it's just interesting. Again, I work with people with mental health prison system. So, by me dealing in the DC area, which is so unique, I can have somebody in the DC area whose family may have a high level job, and they have a family member doing life in prison.
Yeah, I can see that. Right? I can see that.
I mean, I've had.
you know, I mean, DC is, you know, it is. Parliament said it best. It's chocolate city. It's been that way for a long time. You know, so. But you know, so like I said, one of the things I'm just trying to get to is, and my next video kind of exemplifies that, where there's a black lady on TV on CNN. She's accomplished, very accomplished. She's sitting right next to a white man, and I'll let her talk about it. But she refuses to take credit for why she's there, because she said, you know, and it's really painful to listen to her speak. And you know, and I know you're a sister. I saw you. I have a feeling, and I don't know if you weren't here in the beginning of my. I don't think the beginning of my show. I have this theory about women in terms of the fact that, listen, I have a big family, and the reason why my family is still close is because the women in it, right? On my father's side, my paternal side, the women in the family. My grandmother and grandfather had a lot of daughters, and all the kids used to come to the house. We lived with a lot of cousins, and I believe the women are the glue that keep the family together. And I think that's a good thing for families, but I think it also could be exploited. And I think that's what the puppet masters do, because affirmation and it's something that women in general like to see, like to have. And I have to say this, a lot of women like to be coddled. And so if you could coddle people, coddle them, give them affirmation, show them that you have a safety net, you can pretty much manipulate folks. Right. And so that's why I think that's one reason why so many of our sisters are liberal, and so many of the brothers who want them just follow them being liberal against even their best interests. You know,
I agree to a point. I agree. I
okay,
agree. Because again, I live here in the DC area.
right.
I had a sister. She was having some health issues, late 40s or so.
Okay.
Career focused. Unfortunately, as she came to this area, she didn't have a lot of resources. She had, you know, associates and so forth, but she didn't have a family. She actually left where she came from, was in a relationship because she wanted to make this career move, and the guy didn't. Then unfortunately she got sick. And so we came in because she became sick and she needed
Okay.
resources and support because her family's out, you know, who is not here.
Okay.
And one of the things she quietly regretted was letting that relationship go and other things in her past. She always put her career first. And who knew at this age stage in her life that she would need family? Because when you're sick in that way,
Right.
you know, you need nothing but family.
Right. Okay.
You know, a boss is not going to be holding your head, you know, crying and letting out. And I believe you're talking about that CNN interview I saw has been making its rounds. I think I've seen.
Yes. And
I was a little upset and frustrated with it because, again, that wasn't a forum for her to express that in that way.
Well, okay.
Her pointing her fingers.
Hang on right there. Hang on right there, because I want to show that. So, no, if you're gonna hang on there, because I want to show this thing. I have it in parts, but there's a lot of people who recorded that, and there's just one brother that he's doing a reaction to it. But I kept his reaction page because I think his eloquence about the situation lends to what was going on that CNN stage. And I'm just telling you, I mean, he could say it a whole lot better than me. So stay tuned. If you got a minute to hang out, hang out. Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. Let me find it. What is it saying? Yeah, my man, Scott Jennings is unbelievable too. I mean, all right. So here we go.
There, DEI. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together.
I have literally no idea how the government works, is what I actually
do. So I'll just give this guy a little bit of credit.
Scott Jennings nukes the entire CNN panel because apparently they did not get the memo that DEI, your critical race theory activist nonsense, is finished. The Democrat Party is in shambles, and this CNN panel proves it as they continue to double down on racial identity politics. What you're about to hear from this one CNN panel is the most hysterical, outrageous, delusional, race hustling, victimhood outrage you might have ever heard. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but I got to start with my man Scott Jennings literally having to explain to these people why DEI is racist and anti-American.
If race is not the issue, then why is DEI mentioned every
5
single
seconds.
day as a solution to every single problem that faces this?
Because of how pervasive it is,
But do you
and
think
how
it's
hateful
really
it is
true?
to an actual conservative ideological view.
But do you think it is
People-
true that all of America's ills, from the plane crash to whatever it is, wildfires,
I
due
think-
to DEI for real?
I think that if you believe in the fundamental principle of America, which is that we guarantee everybody an equal chance, not an equal outcome, but an equal chance, then trying to go around that principle, conservatives don't believe in it.
Yes.
And most people who believe in America don't believe
I'd
in
like
it,
to-
number one. Number two, the concept of not hiring the best person for the job in government or anywhere else has been repeatedly rejected by the American people, the Supreme Court, and everything else.
Us conservatives believe that discriminatory hiring practices are wrong, but woke liberal DEI activists advocate for preferential treatment to be given to somebody based off of their skin color and discriminating against white people because of their skin color. They always complain about systemic institutional racism. Well, that's the institutional racism right there coming from their side. Claiming victimhood and blaming systemic injustices that don't exist is just an excuse for you to abdicate any responsibility that you have for your own outcomes. It makes you feel better about your shortcomings. If something doesn't go your way, it wasn't because you didn't work hard enough or you're not good enough. It's because the whole system is rigged against you because you're Black. That kind of mindset is so harmful to the people in the Black community who are the poorest. So they're the ones who need hope and belief and optimism the most. But yet Democrats encourage them to contain themselves in a mental prison and abandon any potential they might have otherwise by believing in a delusional and false reality about this country. Now, one of the DEI activists on the panel responds to Scott Jennings with the most elitist, pretentious, snobby thing I have ever heard come out of a Democrat's mouth.
Ooh, okay.
I just
Can I
wanna-
comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
You said,
I
go
have,
ahead.
Again, I'm in disagreement with her response. I'm also somewhat in disagreement with this gentleman's reaction to her video in terms of calling us the poorest Black people. We have faced adversity because of our race. And I don't want people to forget that. There's a history of it documented.
Well, hold
So
on.
don't play us on that. But
Before
I
you-
also understand the Democrats playing us on that. And that's the issue. We need to be able to present our claim in a factual way, in a professional way, in a calm way, in a sane way, without always.
All right, Michelle, let me challenge you on this, okay?
Okay, sure.
Because how old are you?
I am 41.
Okay, all right. I'm 66. Okay, so I was born when Jim Crow was still around. One of the things is I think we need to stop leaning on the fact that we've been victims to the white man for years. I mean, only from the standpoint that it's true, but through all of it, we're still here. We're still standing. There's still a whole bunch of successful Black folks. So this systemic racism that a lot of us cling to is leaking like a sieve. Right?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of Black people in high places, and not just entertainers either, not just athletes either. So so we have institutional racism, or we have organizational racism in places, but it hasn't stopped us from succeeding. I mean, just think about it, from slavery to Jim Crow, to redlining, to all of that stuff. We're still here. I mean, at one point we had accomplished families. We had an 80% marriage rate. And I don't want to hear young people say the women only got married because they couldn't do anything else. I hate hearing that, because my aunts and my mother loved their husbands. They stayed together till death, till they part, and the women weren't the only ones who went last. Some of them went first. So I just think that we have this narrative that we cling to, which has truth to it, but we hang on to it like a albatross around our necks, as opposed to looking at all the successes we have out here. You know, I'm not a YouTuber, but I'm able to get on here and say my piece, and people are going to listen to it and put some on the shelf and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we can accomplish the things we want to accomplish. You know, and we could fail at some of these things too, but it's not always because we're black, right?
Okay, true, but
go ahead.
I also that's true, but the way the guy is framing it, I don't like it when, especially when these conservatives, they're trying to make it slighting us because of our racial reclutching. He didn't even approach it like you approach it. Say, hey, we've overcome some. Is it there? Yes, but we overcome. He's not for me. He's not approaching it from a perspective of empowerment.
I can see where you're coming from, but I'll give him deference because he's specifically talking about this particular interaction on CNN.
Okay.
You know, that's what he's talking about. And you've seen this. I mean, the sister, Ashley, I believe is her name. Let's just go ahead and hit it. Let's just hit it.
Okay, sure.
You know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and see what she got to say.
Watch.
The issue in this country right now is we live in different realities.
That's right.
I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know,
and I know what, Scott.
And you know that.
Let me just tell you about.
Okay, I got to stop for a second, real fast. Now, think about this, okay? She's sitting next to a man telling him that she doesn't have the same opportunities. She's on TV just like he is. She has the bully pulpit on the CNN show just like he does. And she's telling him that she doesn't have the same opportunities, like she knows his whole life story. She's here. Whatever work she had to do to get there, she made it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the problem I have. Hey, sis, you're right here. Admit with me.
I agree with you on that. I didn't see it from that perspective. I agree with you. You're there. And I think that's where she needs to, she could have came from that perspective too. Hey, I'm here. That's right. But you know, whatever, I'm here. So I agree. That's a good perspective. Now that I'm talking to you, okay, I'll put that in my pocket too, because you're right. She's there and able to speak. And that is an opportunity that I probably would never even have.
There you go. Let's go.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country,
but not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want,
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city. I'm not
talking about New York. I'm talking about Ashley.
Let her finish.
I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in, and it's not
even in the White House.
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Like, we already knew that they feel this way and they think their shit doesn't stink. But for
let me stop it again. Listen.
And I was so flabbergasted when I saw her do that. I was so done. I was like, girl.
Tell me why you were done. Tell me why you were. Tell the audience here why you were done in particular. What did you see?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand. Like, if I'm among my friends, I'm gonna act a particular way. I'm just gonna, my hands are gonna be going up. I'm gonna be Michelle.
Okay.
But I do know when I'm on a certain forum, I need to have a level of decorum and keep it together. Somebody who has a law degree, whatever degrees, you should know better how in terms of in that setting.
But okay. Well, not only that, and we got more of her, right? She almost completely forgets that she was working in the Obama White House, right? So she was working with Obama, talking about she wasn't paid the same. It wasn't a white man. It was Obama who she was on the payroll for. So I'm just saying she's just forgetting all the hard work she put in and all these things. And, here's another thing that I don't like, and maybe you can tell me this. When black people used to say, even back in my day, in the dinosaurs where the woolly mammoths and shit were out there, I had to work twice as hard to get half as much and twice as this. So what? You work twice as hard. It's not a flex if you got what you want. So what? Was the hard work something that you didn't want to do? I mean, so you worked harder to get what you wanted. So it means to me that you should appreciate where you are more than anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
But I also feel you're absolutely right. But I also feel, you know, I'm a more of a conservative Democrat. I also feel, again, because I live in the DC area, and I understand how liberalism has been put in our community, and is we as a people, some from us have taken it to a whole nother level, like their sister did. Not forgetting you're on national TV, international TV, and you know, the response has been horrible. Because I mean, I was embarrassed. Like, I'm like, oh my God, girl, just keep it. You don't have to do this.
This is a viral clip. It's a viral clip. It's everywhere. So let me let him say his piece, and we can talk about what he says, because you might not agree with some of what he's saying here too. Listen to that. Let me start it up again.
For her to say it that way, this openly, was her lashing out in a desperate way to try to justify her decision to vote for the losing candidate. They lost so badly and so overwhelmingly, they can't bear to think that they were that wrong. Instead, they have to make themselves feel good and remind them and everyone else that they have so many degrees, they're so smart, they're more educated than everybody at this table. I mean, what a snobby thing to say. I don't see how anybody would want to be friends with a person like that. If you walk through the world scanning rooms and saying, I bet I'm more educated than them, I bet I'm more educated than them, you are a truly insecure person. You know you lack fundamental skills, capability, competence, or intelligence. If she didn't get paid,
I don't agree with what he just said there per se, that she lacks those things. I think that most Black people, because she could be very intelligent, I just think that most Black people who think like this are still subject to the brainwashing and programming that they're under, and that their mothers and fathers were under, and that just pervaded down through the decades, right? Because there's no other way for her to actually think this way with all of her accomplishments, other than that just she's so programmed she can't see anything better than that. That's just the way I see it. That's because I don't, he could be right, but I'm giving her a little bit of grace on the fact that she might not be just like an idiot with a degree. She could be actually as accomplished as she is, but she just can't even see it because she wants to be a victim.
Exactly. I agree with you. That's a good point.
the most
And can I also
at
say
any
something?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
But I'll play the clip and then I'll respond. I'm sorry.
All right. No, you can go first unless you're gonna remember.
Oh yeah. I want to hear what he has to say too as well. Thank you.
job that she's at. A normal person would look in the mirror and say, what's wrong with me? What am I not doing enough of to where my employers don't see that much value in me? But victims can never be wrong. They can never be not good enough. They can never have shortcomings. They can never have flaws. They're just perfect, and the world owes everything to them. And at the very end, she gets schooled when the guy points out, you worked in the Obama White House and you were still paid the least. So you can't just blame it on racism then when you were working in the administration of a Black person who made racial equality and DEI his whole thing. So Carrie Champion, who is one of the most snarky and obnoxious people on TV, who is a stark defender and supporter and believer of racism. I mean, you could point to a household item and she could explain to you how that's racist. Tries to lecture Scott Jennings, and I can't blame him. After hearing all of this nonsense, he blows up on everybody. Let's take a look.
Okay, go ahead. What do you have to say first?
And then also, I'm curious about the young man who's doing this. He appears to possibly be a biracial person.
Yeah, he's that big. Okay. So why would that matter?
Because I'm noticing now with the new generation of biracial, because I worked with biracial people.
Okay.
And there's some level of condescendence towards the Black community or their Black side of their family.
Is that what you
we gotta talk about this.
Go ahead.
And so, again, these are nuances within our community that we need to discuss.
But that's a
And
whole
that
nother
I
topic.
see.
That's a whole nother topic,
Yes,
though.
it is.
So you think he's coming from that elitist standpoint that, you know what, I might have some black in me, but I have enough white that I could condescend towards black people.
Possible. I'm not sure in his case, but possible. But possible. Especially he looks like he's a possible. I don't know.
Well, he just say he's a
And
conservative.
I'm seeing
right?
more and more of this as a lot of the biracial children are now becoming older and entering the workforce. No, I'm seeing this now.
Well, you know, listen, more than one thing could be true, right? We know
Mhm.
that there could be a modicum of truth or a lot of truth to what you're saying, but we can't put a wet blanket on everybody. But let's put it this way.
No.
I can show you a black conservative. He's dark as me and you, who sounds just like this guy.
Mhm.
You know, he almost has 1 million subscribers, and he sounds just like this guy. And he's like 35, maybe 40, maybe. You know,
I bet you he's not married to a black woman.
I don't know if he.
I mean,
I don't know
you
if
got to
he's
think
married.
about with a black woman, I should
How
say.
do you jump to that conclusion? You know, we don't know.
I'm telling you, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing this a lot, especially live and work in the DC circle. Many black men who I see are mainly conservative. Their wives are not of the community, and I'll just leave it like that.
Well, you know
Or their
what?
significant others.
Okay, but let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. It kind of makes sense, right? Since the majority of black women are liberals. Majority of black working women are liberals. So it kind of makes sense. If you want to be equally yoked with somebody, why marry somebody that you're politically opposed to? Now,
Good point.
I got one for you also, okay? A lot of black women who have success, they marry white men. Look at the Supreme Court justice, right? She's in a
yes.
You know, so I don't have a problem with it. I think in the times that we're in, we're going to see more. It's a whole hat for interracial couples now. It's not even a thing anymore. Not really. Not really. I think that's, you know, I don't want to get spiritual, but I think that's where humanity's going anyway. It's only really one race. It's the human race. Anyway, but that's a whole nother story. I can get it. Maybe I'll make something out of that one day. But get back to this. Let's listen to Carrie. You know Carrie Champion? Ever heard of her before? This is Abby Phillips, but have you heard of Carrie Champion? She was an ESPN host.
No, not okay.
She's a trip. Let's see.
Political appointees have one qualification. They serve at the pleasure of the president because the president believes that person's going to best carry out their agenda. That is the only qualification.
And to protect and defend the Constitution.
And that is the only qualification for a political appointee.
Doesn't matter.
Of course they're competent. Of course he believes they're competent. If he didn't believe they were competent, he wouldn't appoint them.
I'm not being fair with that. You're not being fair with that response. She asked you a very simple question, yes or no. Look at the appointees. Do you believe DEI had anything to do with those appointees? Do you believe they were qualified? Do you think they would protect and defend the Constitution that represents all of the people of the United States of America?
I think Mark Rubio.
I have literally no idea how the government works is what I do.
So the question that preceded that entire interaction was they asked Scott Jennings if he thought that Trump's cabinet picks were DEI picks. Because what they're trying to argue is Trump's picks aren't the most qualified for the job, which shows that they still don't get it. They are completely missing the ball. The Americans did not want another traditional pick. They didn't want another establishment swamp monster. They elected Trump to shake up the government, rid it of the corruption, rid it of the inefficiency, rebuild it from the bottom up, and make it work for the American people in a way that does not put $37 trillion of debt on our national budget. The American people gave two giant middle fingers to the establishment, the status quo, and the way things have been done. I just don't understand how the Democrats are so clueless. Americans wanted mass deportation. The Democrats are choosing to fight that. Americans wanted their government cleaned out and made inefficient and exposed for all the corruption and waste. And the Democrats are fighting and protesting that. Americans wanted men out of women's sports. And the Democrats are fighting that. Americans wanted an end to DEI and radical woke policies. And as they're exposing on this panel, they're tripling down on that. Democrat favorability is already at an all-time low, and it certainly has not hit the floor yet. You got to think they're so down bad that the only argument they can really make in the news right now is something to do with eggs, because Donald Trump has essentially fulfilled every campaign promise within the first 2 weeks. It's just pure despair and desperation that they're trying to make themselves feel happy and satisfied and right that Donald Trump hasn't completed a term's worth of stuff in the first 3 weeks. Now, Scott Jennings literally tells the black girl who's more educated than everybody in the table that she didn't need DEI to succeed. She's smart, she's competent, she's hardworking, she's talented. I mean, he compliments her in the best way possible, and she gets offended. I'm not kidding.
All right, so yeah, I mean, this is the pièce de résistance. But before we get to her, do you think he was right about the things that the Democrats are beating him up about? The election was clear. We wanted something different than what we've been having. And they're
Definitely
tooth and nail about everything, you know. And so, all right, so let's go ahead and see our girl Ashley hit the wall.
Watch.
I actually think we share a lot of similarities in our journey, but I think you made it, and you are the most respected voice often in every room or every table you're in, not because of anything other than your talent and your work ethic. And that's all anybody ever is asking for, is for people with talent and work ethic to make it. And that's what I see in you. That's how I see you.
But let me tell you something about my story and my family story, is that we have faced discrimination. I have faced discrimination. I just said I was the least paid person, even in this moment sometimes, to my counterparts. It is just the reality of the country we live in. And I'm not saying, I do believe I'm qualified. I know I'm qualified. You won't ever tell me I'm not qualified. But the system that I live in doesn't matter about my qualifications.
I don't agree, because
when 2025.
Oh,
I don't think we're there in 2025.
You can't go.
That's just not true.
That's not true.
There's a mountain of evidence that suggests that you are wrong.
This is the problem with DEI victims and people who see the entire world through racial divides and systemic injustices, is you refuse to be seen as an equal. You are the one reinforcing the racism that nobody else wants to participate in. You are the only one who is keeping this racist mindset and belief alive. And they can't stand it. They have to keep it alive. They have to hold on to it, because otherwise they don't have any other scapegoat for their failures. Self-awareness, self-reflection is a hard thing. Telling yourself the hard truth is not always easy. What you're good at, what you're not good at, how you can improve, what you need to do better about yourself. These are all components to being successful, not being coddled and told that you're perfect and immune from criticism, and thinking that if you don't get your way, then the world is against you. A higher power doesn't want to see you succeed. It's not real, and you're limiting yourself from any kind of success. See, the thing about the American dream is it's only real if you believe in it.
I wanted to stop it right there, because I agree with him 100% on that one. I agree with
I also may say, I was thinking about what he said. I feel we as Black people, because I listen to Jason Black, and we as Black people are not strategic. I'm tired. We're not strategic with how we deal with racism. It is here. But that sister, reason why I'm off, because I think she went off code, because I don't think that was the forum for her to let it out in that way.
Okay, what forum do you think she should have been at? I mean, what kind of forum is
well,
that?
I think she should have stuck with the facts in terms of kept her composure, number one, because now you're viral.
Okay. Yes,
you know, hey, I may have overcome. I've been in the White House. I've done this, I've done X, Y, and Z, but I'm also understanding that there are people, I have peers who may not have had that opportunity because of X, Y, and Z. So I think she approached it from that way. If she could approach it from a more planned way, I think she would have made her point across more, as opposed to talk about, I worked here, I got a master's degree, I got a law degree, puffing her eyes. I mean, you childish.
Okay, give me a second here. New member, What We Know podcast, become a YouTube member. All right. So that's cool. All right. So I just want to say that you said something, right? That that she talked about, yeah, she made it, but she's worried about her peers. Okay. And I have a problem with people being a victim from people who didn't make it. Okay. It's like,
we are her collective. We are her collective.
Well, hold on for a second. No, we're not. Hold on for a second. Let me just say
Okay.
this.
Okay.
It sounds like survivor's remorse to me. Everybody's not going to make it. Everybody's not supposed to make it. She can't vouch for all the work these other people she's talking about did. Maybe she got it because she stayed up an extra hour for the exams, or she did an extra walkthrough with a report she had to bring in, or she did something that set her aside from everybody else. And that's something that the rank and file people might not want to do. I mean, we can't sit down here and say, if everybody can't make it, it doesn't matter if I make it. That's a lie. That's not how the world works. And it doesn't work that way for anybody. I mean, listen, we sit around here thinking that white people have this like privilege. I'm just using white people as an example. There's so many goofy ass white people out there failing that our heads will spin. You know why? Because white privilege doesn't mean you don't have to do the work. You still have to do the work. Now, maybe your network is generations old, and you have some more people that might help you through that door. But the truth of the matter is Black people have built networks too that serve them well. And so here's the thing. The only privilege that I really believe that's really privilege out there is pretty privilege. Whether you're handsome or pretty, whether you're Black or white, you already have a door open for you because people like looking at you. And then it's up to you to blow it. You know what I'm saying? But
okay, that's pretty. I like that. Okay, gotta put that in the pocket too.
Well, just think about it. Handsome men and pretty women get deference, but just being white, just being white doesn't get you deference. You're in Chocolate City, but you go around, there's a whole bunch of white people ain't doing shit. And they're just sitting around drinking, smoking meth and drinking beer and all that kind of stuff. They just don't publicize them on TV like they do us, right? So, and there's a whole lot more of them than there are us. And so that's the real thing. So we look like, it looks like all the victimization, it looks like all the failures are in the Black community. It's only because our percentages are so small. And we're being highlighted as, and maybe rightfully so in some areas, right? You see a mob of kids out in the street somewhere, a lot of them are always Black. So we have some that we have to deal with, but some of them are self-inflicted wounds. They ain't all, because of racism and stuff. We in a lot of ways, we are our own worst enemies, right? And you say people don't like Black people. The unfortunate part is it's a lot of Black people who don't like Black people.
Yes, do I know? Oh,
so I'm trying to get people to think that if you're going to succeed, you set your plan, understand there's going to be obstacles, and then you take steps forward. And then, understanding that there's racism, there's this, there's that. But then you look around and say, well, how did all these other Black people make it? They have the same system of government I do. And I tell people this, and I've been here saying this a long time. I'm like on the island sometimes. I think a lot of us don't see past the color of our skin. And there's a whole bunch of people who don't want us to forget it. Right? We are so much, we are so much more than just the color of our skin. Right? As human beings, we are more than that. Right? And that's one thing. The other thing is that Black Americans don't view themselves enough as just Americans. I believe that everything this country has to offer, we should take advantage of. And it belongs to us just like it belongs to everybody else. And we have receipts to prove it.
Yes.
Right? So it's a thought process. Our thought process is broken. Right? I worked, like I said, I worked for DOD for a long time. And it was many years that I was the spook who sat by the door. The only Black person in a room full of white managers and stuff like that. And before the end of my career, I was sitting in the chairman's seat of one of the most important release boards in the Army. So,
wow, that's amazing. Respect.
you know, yeah, I didn't say it for a flex, but how did I do that? Right? Nobody gave it to me. I just knew that, and this is something that you might realize too. And I said this to BMU before, that most Black people aren't aware of it, but we're more comfortable in a room full of whites than a white person would ever be in a room full of Black.
Ooh, that's deep. That's true. I agree.
I mean, we got strengths that we don't talk about. So we focusing on the wrong things. And to see that sister look at my man Scott Jennings and say what she said, not really, I'm giving her some grace because she was hot, right? So she ain't really thinking about. You can't discredit all of your successes because you want to make a point about somebody who didn't achieve like you. I mean, that's crazy.
Okay, I agree. Okay, I concur. That's a good point.
So I mean, so listen, I have, I got a couple, I had 3 more videos, but I'm only show one left at the end because I don't think I need to show the other ones. Well, I should, but I shouldn't, because it's really some other people testifying that DEI in general doesn't serve Black people. It's not we're not the beneficiaries of it, not the primary ones. We're at the bottom of the barrel, right? White women are at the top of that list.
Yeah.
How did they become people who need something like that? How do white women and their tears are the ones at the top of the DEI list, or affirmative action for that matter? It's crazy.
Yeah, but why are we, especially Black women, the moniker for DEI? And since the argument has been going on, well, guess what? I was like, why aren't we the moniker for this? Why?
Well, because I could tell you, I had a theory on why. Right? Because, listen, and I don't want to say this about, I gotta say not all, right? I think the way that most Black people, not just women, but women mostly, the liberalism and the way our natures are, and female nature is susceptible to the programming by the liberals. Not only white liberals now, but Black liberals. Hey, listen, you are a victim. You're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim, and you got to have a sister code. And, even if you're successful, it's not good success if everybody can't come with you. That's just simply not logical or true.
That's true.
And so the DEI we become the face of DEI. And so when we are in a place of leadership, people will tend to gravitate or tend to think that is he there or is she there because of a program of DEI? Are they really competent in the job? And we are the worst purveyors of making people think that way because we're the only ones championing this shit. We're the face of DEI by the Al Sharptons of the world, the no-neck guy who likes men's behinds.
Roly-poly.
Yeah, Roly Martin.
Roly-poly.
Yeah. They champion this. So it's easy for people to say, well, these guys are worried about it as much, so they must be the biggest beneficiaries of it, and it's not true. It's not. And so it makes me so mad to hear that shit. So anyway, we know all that. Dr. Umar Johnson, if you ever heard of him, he had a little.
Oh yeah, I love him. What you talking about? Unapologetic.
Yeah. He came out and said that, the same thing, that we're not the beneficiaries of it. He goes down the list of what I just said, and so does a couple of other people. And I believe it's true. I think we need to start to look at what we champion. Like, for example, I hate to say this, you know what? We champion transgenderism, Black people.
But that was our Achilles heel. That was our Achilles heels of people. When we took on those external issues,
yeah,
that's our downfall. Because if you talk to Al Sharpton years ago when he was fat, was like blackity black, but now LGBTism, everybody else. Now we're just one big bowl.
Yeah, and we're at the bottom of the damn fish bowl. The fish food is all gone by the time it gets to the bottom where we are. you know, where they think we are. So that's my point. We champion all of these things that, you know, and they're like parasites on Black people's back. You know, when's the last time you saw a transgender stand up for Black people?
I've not seen it. Not to my recollection. Maybe do you have a footage you can share? I'm open.
I haven't. That's why I'm asking you. You know what I'm saying? Nobody stands up for us, but we stand up for everybody else. And people are taking advantage of that at every single level. And this DEI is, Trump has everybody afraid of DEI going away. And Black people are the face of it, of trying to save it. And it's crazy. You know, it's time to let it go. And take more credit for the hard work you put in. And if you have to work harder than the next guy, so what? If you accomplish the mission, and even if you fail, because we all fail at something, you try something else, but take heart that you actually try to do something. You know, and that's really what it is. You know, just sitting around playing bonbon. So listen, I got one more video that I'm
gonna have to fall off soon because my battery's running low. So I'm gonna be watching, but I just need a charge. So I'm gonna fall off. Thank you for having me on, and I'll try to catch the next show.
Yeah. Listen, every Monday at 7:00, and we have a whole.
I'm still watching, but I just have to fall off the live.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for coming up. Anyway, everybody, listen. I appreciate the people in the chat. Some people came that we haven't seen before. The young lady that was just up, I really appreciate Michelle. It was good for her to stand up, even though she couldn't come on camera. She wanted to be kind of low key, but I saw her, so I knew she was real. I don't know, BMU has his rules, but I think we had a nice conversation. So I was glad to share the floor with her. And again, you know, this is I'm gonna leave you, everybody else who's still in the chat. I got a signature now, and I want you guys to listen to this. Because maybe I sound different, but I believe that we don't take enough credit as being Americans, you know, and I think we need to see ourselves past our skin color. And again, I got one more thing I want to show you guys, and I might just play it twice because I want the people in the back to hear it. You know what I'm saying? What do I have here? All right. Bear with me for a second. All right, this has become my signature, I guess, if I could find it. All right.
From the mountains high to the valleys low, where the rivers run free, the wildflowers grow. From the shores of the ocean to the deserts wide, every heart beats proud with a spirit inside. And oh, America, America, your tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and every starry night, you shine with hope, you burn so bright. In the bustling cities and the quiet towns, and the laughter and love that dead before found. From the Golden Gate Bridge to the shores of Maine, in the warmth of your heart, we dance through the rain. And oh, America, America, your tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and every starry night, you shine with hope, you burn so bright. No, America, America, your tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and in every starry night, you shine with hope, it's so bright. Full love and compassion, carry the flame in our hearts forever. America's the name.
All right. So listen, I want to just kind of leave you with this. Just remember that all that we are as human beings does not, revolve around our skin color. We're so much more than that. So listen, I'm gonna play this once for all the folks in the back, and then I'll say good night to everybody. And I appreciate you coming up and listening. And listen, I have this AI generator. I just put a couple of themes in there and it writes me a song, and I couldn't wrote this one any better.
From the mountains high to the valleys low, where the rivers run free, the wildflowers grow. From the shores of the ocean to the deserts wide, every heart beats proud with a fear inside. And oh, America, America, your tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and every starry night, you shine with hope, you burn so bright. In the bustling cities and the quiet towns, and the laughter and love that dead before found. From the Golden Gate Bridge to the shores of Maine, in the warmth of your heart, we dance through the rain. And oh, America, America, your tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and every starry night, you shine with hope, you burn so bright. No, America, America, you're a tapestry so grand, with colors of freedom painted across the land. In every sunrise and in every starry night, you shine with hope, it's so bright. Full love and compassion, carry the flame in our hearts forever. America's the name.
And with that, everybody, thanks for supporting, and make sure you hit the like button on the way out, and good night.